Good morning. Or afternoon, I guess. It's hard to say. This is a day in the life of an astronomer. So when you need to be up all night, your schedule gets weird. I try to sleep in as late as I can up on the mountain, usually until around 1 p.m. Now, first thing, opening the blackout shutter that's kept the room dark while I slept. Once I open that, the sun comes pouring in and I realize just how late in the day it is already. So up next, I get ready for the day. Nothing exciting there. Then it's time for the first meal of the day, lunch. While we're at lunch, we place our order for the final meal of the day, but that'll come later.
What shall we order tonight? I heard a rumor the soup is good.
The afternoon is a good time for us to hop on the computer and see what the weather is like, check in with friends and family, and get some work done while normal people are still awake at home. Right now, Chile is just 2 hours ahead of Central Time. The afternoon is also good for taking daytime pictures around the mountaintop, and it's when we get a game plan ready for observing later on at night. Now time flies, and the second meal of the day is already here, dinner. It's always fun to see what the cooks have in store, and dessert is no exception. Now maybe choosing dessert is some kind of mental warm-up for the night, but what I do know is as we leave dinner, we pick up that same meal we ordered earlier at lunchtime. So then we pack all the supplies we'll need for the rest of the night and head up to the mountaintop. We get lots of beautiful sunsets here, so picture time is always in order. Now not too much later, the sky is dark, and so we finally put the telescope to work. Now here's where we control the telescope. The device taking the images for us is called the Dark Energy Camera, and it's used on a lot of really cool projects. Now we call it DECam for short, but it's a huge camera made up of 62 different detector chips. So here's some rough math for us. 60 chips times about 95-minute exposures through the night for us. That gives us 5,400 images from just one night. Now, lucky for us, we've got computers on our side. A lot of computers. If anyone sees my boss, Tiffany, tell her I want 7 more screens on my desk by the time I get home. Now, we monitor the atmospheric conditions all night and keep setting the camera to take more and more images, and maybe we follow some hockey in between. Now when we get hungry, we have that meal the cooks packed up for us earlier in the day. We call this third meal of the day night lunch. Now I usually get a sandwich or two, some soup, cookies, and coffee. Definitely coffee. And now it's just too late. Dr. French has finished submitting grades for her college classes back at home. Bob starts having too much fun with the Tiny Planet app on his iPad, and we decide it's probably time for a break. So we set DECam to keep taking images, and then we run outside for a photo shoot of our own. Now no flash, of course, that would be rude to the other astronomers using these telescopes. But the moon is up, kindly reflecting just a little bit of the sun's light back to us. Now that, combined with long exposures and a tripod, and we're all set. Now the cold air kept us alert, and we headed back inside. Now the Earth keeps turning, and so our asteroids kept getting lower and lower in the sky. So we packed up our dishes from night lunch, drove back to the dormitory, and headed for bed, making sure we closed that blackout shutter so the sun wouldn't wake us up too early in the morning. It's 7 a.m., and that marks the end of a day in the life of an astronomer.
I'll play Claire, you play Freddie.
So we do have some questions this time. These questions are all from North Jackson Elementary. I got to Skype with you last week or the week before. It's all blurring together now, and it's past midnight, so forgive us if we're about to say anything really exciting in any weird ways. But so questions. Let's start off first with Christian. You had a question that I wanted to make sure I got answered. How far can the telescopes see, or maybe rephrase, just how good are these telescopes? So I'm actually going to hand that over to Dr. French so that she can answer that one.
Thank you, Derrick. Thank you, Christian. That's an excellent question. Well, we are using a very large telescope. It's about 4 meters in diameter, the collecting area. That would be about 12 feet across. And we use such a large telescope because basically it's like catching raindrops in a bucket. And we just catch a lot more light with something that large. We astronomers tend to think more in terms of how faint we can see, how much light we can gather. And with this one, just to use an analogy, we might think of capturing light from the moon. You could see probably a night light. If you've got one of those in your house, you could probably see that faint night light if it were on the moon. Now, in terms of distances, some of you may have heard about light years. It's a measure of how in the universe. It's much bigger than anything I can comprehend, and probably you too. But I know that with this telescope they have measured distances at least 4 to 5 billion light years, and possibly a good deal further. So we can see very far indeed.
All right, so that's good question number 1. We got sort of 3 good questions coming here. Good question number 2, this one was from Gavin. You wanted to know what the telescopes are made of, so it's Bob's turn on that one.
Well, Gavin, the telescope is mostly made of metal, but the most important part of it is the mirror. And the mirror, just like a mirror you might have at home, is made of glass. Only this is a very special kind of glass that is not very sensitive at all to heat. Heat will cause the glass to change and to focus the light in different places.
So very, very special equipment. That's what draws all of us here. Dalton had the last question, and Dalton, I'm actually going to hold off on your question until next time because you asked a really good specific question about asteroids. So on our next episode, on our next update, we'll be talking all about asteroids. So Gavin, hold tight. You've just got such a good question. We can't quite handle it yet. So thank you, everyone. Again, if you have any questions, marketing@adventuresci.org is the best spot. That way all those questions will get to me, and we'll keep answering them, and see you tomorrow.